Hello YouTubers, this is The Giant Awakens, and today I want to talk about another important topic. Are we in the midst of peak oil? I believe there's a lot of evidence supporting that we are. In 2008, there was a few scientists that came out and said, that we had reached peak oil in late 2007, 2008, and now we're currently in the downslide of peak oil. And I think they're right, because if you look at all the evidence, I mean, there has not been any major finds in the last 40 years. You look at Brazil had a find of, I think it was 1 billion barrels, but I mean, if you look at the world supply, we're using 87 million barrels a day. That's about 12 days supply. I mean, that's nothing on the world market. And there's supposedly a lot of oil in the Arctic, but I mean, that's going to be difficult to get to. So realistically, there's not a lot of recoverable oil, easily recoverable oil, that is. I mean, it's not like the old days where you could just stick a well in the ground and out comes the oil. I mean, it's getting very difficult to get, and people are fighting over any new discoveries. People are, you see countries fighting over oil. So, and you're going to continue to see this as oil keeps declining. And so another point I think that is important is the Saudis. When is the last time you have seen the Saudis increase output? Usually OPEC, when the price gets really high, like it is $100 a barrel, and it's been here for almost 2 months, what do they usually do? They'll come out and say, you know what, we're going to increase output, and to give Americans and people around the world some relief. But they haven't done this. They haven't done this in a while, and I believe because they are pumping as much as they can. I don't think they can increase output. And on top of that, they started, I think 3 or 4 years ago, they started, drilling offshore. When was the last time you heard about the Saudis drilling offshore? There's an interesting documentary by Michael Rupert. He talks about how the Saudis have been drilling offshore for a while now, and if they had all this oil, out in the desert, easily recoverable oil, why would they be going offshore now, drilling deep offshore wells? Does that make any sense? So there's a lot of evidence that OPEC is pumping as much as they can, and they don't want to scare anybody. They don't want to come out and say, you know what, I'm sorry, we don't have nearly as much oil as we do. I mean, if you look at it, they've always been very tight-lipped on how much recoverable oil they have. They don't let anyone come in and audit them and see what's going on. So it's a very, they run a very tight ship. They don't let anyone come see what they're doing. So to hear about them drilling offshore like this is definitely not a good sign that things are good over there. And what do you think is going to happen too when the oil stops flowing in Saudi Arabia? They don't want a revolution over there. All the people, because that's their way of life for decades has been the oil industry. What are they going to have to fall back on once all this oil ends? So it's just something to think about. And if you have any comments, please post them at the end of this video. And if you haven't signed up for my YouTube channel yet, please do. And everyone have a great weekend, and thanks for listening.